How y'all doing? I'm Paul Ryan, your host of the Across the Cowboys podcast. If you're new to the show, thank you for joining us. And to our regular listeners, welcome back. Unfortunately, the greatest co-host in the world, Mike the Pig Crumb, can't be here with us tonight. Mike is a little under the weather, so send him your well wishes. But everyone's favorite co-host, the president of the Jake Ferguson fan club and the best account manager in the world is here with us tonight, Brenden Fergy Smith. Brenden, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great on this fine evening.
I hear you, man. Brenden, where can we find you on X, a.k.a. Twitter, sir?
You can find me at Brenden_Smith26.
I'm Paul Ryan. You can find me on Twitter at Paul_Ryan15. Well, things are a little different this week. Because of the holidays, we didn't have our Monday recap show. However, we are excited to be back with another episode of our series, Offsides. For those of you new to the show, Offsides is a series where Brenden, Mike, and I bring on fans, content creators, and journalists of the opposing teams the Cowboys are playing that week to talk about the matchup, what it's like being a fan, and everything in between. With us today is a longtime Lions fan, the only Lions fan on Twitter that I know of, and fantasy football personality. This man always has a fresh fade. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Commissioner Breeze to the show. Breeze, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
I can't complain, man. I can't complain. It's starting to get a little cold. I like the winter weather, but I'm glad to be inside.
Yeah, definitely. I can't really speak too much as far as being as cold being here in the South, but I definitely feel for my people back home in the Midwest. I'm sure it's a lot colder up there.
I hear that, brother. Well, Breeze, where can we find you on Twitter, aka X?
You can find me at MCBreeze11.
Yes, sir. Well, all right, Breeze. The Lions are having a great season, and I know you're one of the few Lions fans on Twitter. So I'm curious, how long have you been a Lions fan?
Honestly, probably since I got introduced to sports when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, I had to watch the games with my dad all the time as a kid. Growing up, learning the game itself, how everything works. So took all that in as a kid, and of course, around this time, that's when Barry Sanders came on the scene, and the rest was pretty much history as far as my fandom and him and the team itself.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. So I know you were saying that you're from Atlanta. Oh, you're in Atlanta, but were you born basically in the Michigan, Detroit area?
Yeah, born and raised in Detroit.
Wow. So I'm curious, man. You've seen a lot of Lions players come and go. But who's your all-time favorite Lions player?
I mean, Barry is the cop-out answer, but that's my all-time favorite Lions players. Over the years, I will say that players like, Golden Tate, DeAndre Levy, and of course, Calvin Johnson. Those were among my all-time Lions players throughout those different eras in our history.
Yeah.
Those are solid answers. That's like, of course, you expect Barry Sanders. He's one of the best running backs of all time, so it's easy. And of course, you bring Megatron, but DeAndre Levy and all that's awesome answers. Well, then, who's your current favorite player?
Oh, that's the Sun guy, man. Number 14, man.
Yeah. Man, the Sun, you got the Sun God and you got Jahmyr Gibbs. It doesn't feel fair, man.
Listen, it's funny because, back on draft night when that pick was in for pick 12 after we traded back with Arizona, everybody thought we was going to go one way. Then Brad Holmes take Jahmyr Gibbs, and of course, a lot of people were confused and flabbergasted. Like, why would you take a running back in the first round? What about the positional value, stuff like that? Now once Gibbs got acclimated into our system, and you're seeing getting better each and every week, how we understand why we took him where he did, because he went on record saying that I got a feeling he ain't going to make it to 18. We need to go ahead and have him now at 12, because I believe it was New England, I think the Jets were interested in Jahmyr Gibbs from what I was told. So, sometimes we just got to have patience with players, even if we don't understand the process in real time.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. And you think about it, it's always wise. During the draft, you just never know what to expect from players, man. It's hard to predict the future, but I think it's always best to have a best player approach mentality, and Jahmyr Gibbs looks like that was the right pick.
I low-key think Brad Holmes played dynasty football, man. That's just between you and us.
Yes, sir.
I mean, of course, he got a nice foundation going with the organization right now. But if you look at the way the roster is currently constructed, I think Brad Holmes played dynasty football low-key, man.
I'd love to hear it, man. I'd love to hear that confirmed. Breeze, it hasn't been always easy being a Lions fan, I imagine. So tell us, man, what's it like being a Lions fan the last 10 years? I know you're a lifelong fan, but, just in the last decade, man, what's it been like?
Stafford obviously was here for the majority of the last 10 years. So it was a little bit up and down. 2014 was a really nice season for us that ironically took a turn for the worst in Dallas in the playoffs. It's ironic that we're in Dallas this time again, but we haven't been to the playoffs much in the last 10 years. I think our last appearance was back in the 2016 season. So it wasn't always fun, but we always, supported our players who gave their all each and every week. So to fast forward from where we came to where we are now, definitely in a much happier place. The future looks bright for the Lions, and they're going to be around for years to come, as long as Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell is under center. They got they got the team in the right direction as far as the vision that they have for what they want the team to look like. So
absolutely, man.
Well, when I was reading the script, it didn't really ever hit me, but the last time the Lions won a division, I'm 20 years old. That happened 30 years ago. So how does it feel winning a division finally in 30 years?
It's an amazing feeling, and that's probably an understatement, because from reactions that I've seen since Sunday, you got people crying. It's happy tears, of course. It's because it's been so long. We don't have to be the punchline of people saying, 2002, formerly the NFC Central. So it's a huge relief, and hopefully we can win more divisions to come in the upcoming seasons.
Well, you do have one of those veteran rosters now in your division, so that is really possible. But with also building a roster, and you hit on this just a little bit, but what changed about the Lions franchise when they hiring GM Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell?
So it goes back to, I don't want to say the infamous, but I look at it more so as the iconic first press conference that Dan Campbell ever gave as the Lions head coach, when he talked about his mantra of wanting to bite kneecaps. It was more so a metaphor of, I want guys who going to be tough, gritty, and, give their all. And that's what they have done. Obviously, the situation he walked both Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell was not ideal. We had to trade probably our best player, one of our best players in our franchise history, in Matthew Stafford, to jumpstart the rebuild, so that we can bring fresh blood in, new guys in, so that we can the team, back in a good place. So, and we got mocked, laughed at. A lot of people said Dan Campbell last 2 seasons as the Lions head coach, and now year 3, is a division champ. And they're just getting started, honestly. It's one of the younger teams in the league with a nice foundation, and they still got some more pieces to add to really have them be considered among the elites of the elite teams. San Fran, Baltimore, teams like. But they're in a good place right now. They managed to keep the salary cap in check. We're not under the cap. We're going to be over the, so we're going to have money to play with, this off season. We got some decisions to make, obviously, but that can be addressed, when the time comes about.
Yeah, you kind of touched on this next question, with that answer here, Bree. So I'll ask you a different one. But you just, you look at that Stafford trade, and of course Stafford being a big part of what the Lions were, being the number 1 overall pick, and I'd imagine not leaving on a sour note with Detroit fan base. What was it like watching Stafford win a Super Bowl the year that he left with the Rams?
To be completely honest, I was extremely happy for him because of what I seen from him and what he gave us each and every week and every year that he was with us. I mean, that Super Bowl pretty much validated his career, and the narrative pretty much changed on Stafford once he was able to, get with the Rams and lead them to the Super Bowl, because you got a lot of quarterbacks who had great careers, but they never won a Super Bowl, or yet alone, they never got a chance to compete in a Super Bowl to play for a championship. So I had no hard feelings towards Stafford. He was definitely deserving, for sure, to be a Super Bowl champion,
Absolutely, man.
Honestly, that's how I felt when DeMarcus Ware got a ring. It's like, you should be pissed off. Like, why didn't he win one with us? But they're great players, and they got the ring, so they got what they deserved. I really wanted that to happen for Witten, but, he went to the Raiders, so that was never going to happen. Well, you touch on these questions just a little bit every time you talk, and that's great. But, after almost 3 years, 1 division title, and being close to 30, how would you feel about Jared Goff getting a new contract?
I mean, personally speaking, I want to see how he does over these next few weeks, before the playoffs actually start. I'm not sure. I'm sure they probably had conversations already about what number they want to kind of be in the ballpark range of. But whatever number they agree to when they come to terms, I hope that it won't put us in a position where it's going to, disable us from being able to re-sign, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra and Brown be a free agent after next season. Kind of keep the young pieces that we got together so that we can continue to build on what we already have to keep the foundation intact. But I know the going rate, last time I checked, I know Daniel Jones got $45 million a year contract. So he'd probably be, in that range. I've even heard somebody talk about $50 million, which I think would be outrageous to give Jared Goff. But, Jared Goff, he take us to a Super Bowl, we win it. How could you argue against paying him that?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with Goff in the contract situation, even though we could technically wait until after the 24 season to address that because he got one more year left on his deal after this season. But that's where I kind of stand at with Goff, when that time comes with contract extension and stuff like that.
Absolutely. You mentioned Super Bowl, Breeze. Do you think Lions can win a Super Bowl with this roster and coaching staff?
Anything is possible when the playoffs start. That's the beauty of getting into the dance. You have the improbable happen from time to time. The New York Giants from, 07 as I believe the 6th seed, they were a wild card. They win it all. They knocked down the unbeaten Patriots at the time. So anything can happen. So right now, what I will say, in order for it to happen for this roster, we still got key pieces on our defense coming back as the playoff is approaching. We get who is that? James Houston back, Aleem McNeil back, and CJ Gardner-Johnson back for the playoffs. Anything can happen because that'd be a huge boost for our defense. So, and of course, it'll come down to the matchups, who's playing who and where. So that's a whole nother variable in itself. But is it possible? I would say yes. Will it happen? We'll have to find out and wait.
Absolutely.
That's a phenomenal answer, honestly. He's not saying no, but he's also not outright saying, "Oh, we're gonna win easy." Like, what are you talking about? That's awesome.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about this earlier, but since the Lions, are usually the punchline, the joke, but they're 11-4 right now. Do you think the team is actually getting the respect they deserve?
It's funny because I was gonna respond and say yes before we got on air to record, but today I was just kind of just looking around different social media sites, and believe it or not, I'm going to say no, because the questions that I've been seeing regarding the Lions team, what have they done to deserve the respect that they should get? Who have they beaten to deserve the respect that they have beaten? So my counter to that would be, if you want to be a good team, it's not only important to win at home, but you got to be able to win on the road. So the Lions right now on the season, they actually have more road wins than they do home wins. So that's a sign to me of a team that should get respect, because you can't overlook a team like Detroit, who has right now a top 3 offense in all of football. They can play with anybody, anywhere, any place. When you have arguably the best O-line in football, they can just run the ball down opposing teams' throats on a given week, regardless of, what an opposing defense stats are versus the running back position and how many rushing yards they're allowing. So I definitely think that they're in the mix, they're in the conversation, but as far as respect go, but I do think that they're not getting their just due respect. I think it's mainly because of people still holding on to that old narrative that we're the same Lions. That's just not the case. When you watch this team play each week, they're finding different ways to win each game. And when adversity comes, they're not laying low. They're fighting and scratching and clawing to overcome that.
Absolutely, man. We talked about the season they're having at 11-4. Do you view the Lions as an elite team? If not, what do you think is missing?
The Lions are one of those teams that you don't want to see come playoff time. You know, it's like we were just talking about a moment ago. You get healthy and you get hot at the right time. You don't want to play against that team. And, you know, the Lions are one of the few teams who have not lost consecutive games all season, which is actually impressive when you think about it. But yeah, you know, I think they're really good. I still think they need somebody opposite Aiden Hutchinson who can get to the quarterback, rush the passer on a more consistent basis. Because what happens is when you got people on the right side of the edge who can get to the quarterback, it helps the secondary be more in on, you know, the perimeter players, the slot players, you know, things like that. But I do think they're on the cusp right now of being elite, in my opinion. I won't be a homer say that they are elite right now. They're on the cusp. They're real close. Real close.
I like that answer, man. I do. I like the honesty.
All right. Well, this question's a little dangerous here. I'm gonna let you know this is a safe space, Breeze. Like everything's all good. But are the Lions better than the Cowboys in your eyes?
When I saw that question, I honestly broke this down in a number of ways. I would say on a neutral field, the Lions, in my opinion, are the better team over the Cowboys. But since the game is in Dallas, you know, and with Dallas being so good at home this year, you know, of course, it's going to, you know, we're being, with us being road underdogs, it's going to shift in their favor. But I do believe on a neutral field, the Lions are the better team.
Honestly, I can't disagree with that from, you know, the losses we've had on the road. So, you know what? You would think this would be a really heated debate? No, I agree.
You know, Breeze, you talked about the Lions kind of not getting the respect that they deserve, and they've won 3 games against winning teams like the Cowboys. Do the Lions have something to prove, you know, just looking at those 3 victories against winning teams with a winning record?
I mean, you know, of course, we've always going to have some to prove. You know, we got the I don't know if y'all have ever heard the mantra Detroit versus everybody, but we literally take that to heart because of the lack of respect that people, really across the country have towards us. So there's always going to be something to prove. But we've done so much this season that we're slowly knocking down those barriers 1 week at a time. You know, like I said, with us having more road wins and home wins, it's not often that a team does that in a season. And, you know, obviously if we were to win this game, you know, I'd be interested to see what people will be saying about the Lions, you know, this time next week. Because, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, this past week when we went against Minnesota and we won the game, you'll hear people say, we almost lost to a backup quarterback who threw for over 400 yards. But when you look at the strengths and weaknesses of the Lions, most people would know that you can't run the ball on Detroit, so you have to air it out. I mean, Ty Chandler only had 17 rushing yards. Crazy. 17 rushing yards. So, but at the end of the day, you know, you can only play whoever's in front of you, and you can only play whatever team that's on your schedule whenever, when that time comes in the season. So, there is it's always going to be something, when it comes to how people feel about the Lions. But, like I said, with every win that we're getting, we're slowly changing people's minds about how they see us.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Do you believe that Dallas could lose their first game at home in 2 years? Do you think that Detroit could hand Dallas their first L at home?
This is going to be really going to determine who's going to win this game in the trenches. If the Lions O-line impose their will against, Michael Parsons and the Dallas D-line, it's very possible they can win that game. I mean, I know Dallas been on a little bit of a, losing streak these last 2 weeks on the road, and, opposing teams been kind of having their way running the ball against y'all. But if Dallas can find a way to, contain that old line and limit the damage from the Lions backfield, then the momentum will shift in their favor. But I think it's very possible that Dallas could lose their first game. Think about this. When the Lions got picked by the NFL to open the season against Kansas City, we spoiled their championship night by winning at their place. When we had the game with Tampa Bay, they went to their throwbacks. We ruined the creamsicles for everybody in Tampa. So now you have, Jimmy Johnson ducked into the Ring of Honor, which is long. Anything can happen, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, they definitely not gonna get caught up in the moment, and they're not gonna get caught up in the moment. Of watching Jimmy Johnson get enshrined into the Cowboys Ring of Honor and be like, we're just glad to be here. We won a division. They don't have that attitude right now. They hungry, man.
Well, you kind of brought it up, but with Jimmy Johnson going into the Ring of Honor, do you want to win more because of that? You kind of spoiled the night.
Oh, of course. I mean, because if we went out and let's say Stafford helped us out and knocked the Niners off, to give them their fifth loss of the season, all roads go through Detroit. They'd be the 1 seed. But even if that don't happen, if we went out, we're the 2 seed. So of course, we want to win, and I think the motivation to win will be there. But we still playing for something, just like your Cowboys are. Y'all still trying to win the East. Hoping maybe Philly drop another game.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we definitely, this a big game for both teams.
We believe in Tyrod Taylor. We believe in Tyrod Taylor on this channel.
So, Breeze, you mentioned that both teams are actually really still playing for something even at this point in the season. Is it worth going all out versus Dallas to get a shot at the top seed if you might give away game plan stuff for a possible playoff matchup?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
No, I was just saying, there's a lot to play for in this game, but when you think about it, is it worth kind of giving up some tape to a potential opponent for a potential playoff matchup? Are you worried at all about maybe showing some things on film that you want to save for the playoffs?
No, I'm not too worried. It's funny because coaches all the time and say, during the season, we'll only go through X amount of our playbook, and when the playoffs come, we'll kind of throw a couple of wrinkles in there so that we can kind of throw the opposition off guard. So I'm not really worried about, revealing anything for upcoming opponents to see to try to stop us, because, you got a lot of creative minds out there, both offensive and defensive coordinators. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. But, when the stakes are high like this, you kind of just got to lay it out there. You don't really want to hold nothing back if you can avoid it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's going all for it. He doesn't care. He does not care. Well, do you believe the Lions can basically, you did bring this up, but do you think they can impose their will like San Fran and Buffalo did against Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, when you have an offensive line as good as Detroit, 9 times out of 10, when you're facing against, upcoming opponents, you're going to be able to have your way in executing your game plan. The Lions, they like to run the football, and they do it very well. So, it's definitely, that's just the whole mindset, when you, that's why it's so important, when you're building a team, you want to have that line to not only protect your quarterback, but you want to help the rest of the playmakers that's on the field, your running backs, your receivers, because that opens everything up to run those creative trick plays, play action plays, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, the Lions and Cowboys have a rich history together. Breeze, can you share one of your favorite memories from this historic rivalry?
Yeah, there's two. There's one that's really good, and there's one that's not so good. So obviously, the iconic one when Lions won the last playoff game, at the Pontiac Silverdome against the Cowboys, where Barry Sanders just made those defensive linemen just look silly on that big play in the second half. And that was just a thing. Him was just poetry in motion. But when you see something like that, it's like, how could you even go back to the locker room and face your teammates when you get beat like that? But on the flip side, the 2014 playoffs, when the officials, they pick up the pass interference flag for Eric Ebron. They pick it up. I've never seen this happen in the playoffs.
No, yeah.
I knew right in there, it's not looking good for us. Like the momentum, like you can see it shifting in real time when that specific play happened. And of course, we go ahead and lose the game, but I still stand on the hill that the better team lost that playoff game on that day.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. I remember watching that live, and I thought, prior to the flag being picked up, prior to the flag even being thrown, I thought we were about to lose that game, and then we just saw what happened after that. That was one of the crazier moments in sports that I'd ever seen. It almost, it kind of feels like when they pick up the flag, you're like, okay, the fix is in. That this game has been kind of decided already. Almost, you get that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that one, I was hurt for a long time, man. I really thought we was going to get that game in Dallas and maybe make a run, but, it just didn't go that way on that particular day.
The Lions have suffered a lot of bad luck over the years, man.
That's an understatement. That's an understatement.
For real.
Yeah. So many answers, man.
Honestly, this is one of my more favorite questions, and mainly with similar age and stuff. But if you were starting a franchise, who would you choose between Dak Prescott and Jared Goff, and why?
It's a good question. So what it comes down to for me is when you've been in the league for X amount of years, you gain experience over time. And what has that experience brought to player X and player Y? So when I look at Dak Prescott and Jared Goff, I think both players are similar in many regards as far as, being able to lead a team and getting the guys ready and stuff like that. But when it comes to the experience factor, I have to lean into the favor of Jared Goff because he's actually been to a Super Bowl. He's won playoff games. I believe that I think he's won 1, 2, maybe something like that.
2.
I'm not sure exactly how many he has, but Goff has been there, so he know what it takes to get back to that point. So I would have to lean Jared Goff just solely for that reason, because this is the one time where experience matters.
Yeah. I can't argue with you there, man. He's played in some big games and he's won in some big moments. You can't really say the same thing about Dak, so especially in the playoffs, man. So I like that answer. I really do. Brees, here we are. We're kind of wrapping things up, man. But who will win this game?
Dad, I didn't hear what you said.
So we're on a 2-game winning streak. You guys on a 2-game we on a 2-game winning streak. Y'all on a 2-game losing streak. So
right.
It's only right that you guys are probably going to win this game. But of course, I would love to see the Lions actually predicting them to win this game 30-27. But just viewing this objectively, back to what we was talking about earlier, with the game being in Dallas and, with y'all being favorites. And, I took a peek at the injury report for us before I came on, and, we might be a little thin in that secondary if Cam Sutton can't go. I saw he was questionable with a toe injury, so if he's out, it could get ugly. That can certainly have a field day with that secondary, man. So I would say, objectively speaking, y'all probably will win this game. But of course, the homer in me would love to see the Lions win this game. I think
of course.
Y'all probably need this game more so just to build the confidence back up. Because if y'all lose this game, lose 3 in a row, the national media is going to have a field day with the Cowboys. What's going on? What's wrong? Should we be looking at Mike McCarr like, but stuff like that. So, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it.
I got you. Brenden, what about you? Who will win this game?
I will never not choose Dallas. Dallas forever and ever.
Yes, sir. We're kind of homers here on the podcast in that way. I have to go with Dallas as well. Kind of like you said, Breeze. It just Dallas being on a 2-game losing streak and Detroit being on a 2-game winning streak and then heading on the road in a tough environment. Something's got to give there. So yeah, I got Dallas as well.
Let me throw this last wrinkle out here too.
Yeah, go for it.
So I looked at this too. For this question specifically, I know that Dallas hasn't lost at home this season, but at the same token, the Lions haven't lost in prime time this season either. So something got to give for this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's interesting, man. Prime time, winning all your games in prime time. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to score the first touchdown, Breeze?
I think I'm gonna go with 87. I'm gonna go with Sam Laporta.
Oh, I like it, man. That's a good answer. He's having a killer season, dude. Great addition to that squad, man.
Honestly, it was the perfect storm, looking back in hindsight, because, we traded Hawkinson mid-season last year.
Yeah.
People was kind of looking like, why we do that? But now, fast forward, a year or so later, it makes all the sense in the world. Just going back to, Brad Holmes having that vision of how he want to mold his team and how to Matt Cookson, he was looking to get paid. He got paid by Minnesota, but we was able to find a replacement from who else? Tight end you, and any tight ends you get from there, they're going to be immediate producers. But
Yes,
you couldn't have told me, like, for him to make an impact this quickly, this early in his career,
right.
It's unreal, man.
It really is. It really is. Brenden, I think you've had the same answer to this question about 7 weeks in a row, so I don't know why I'm going to ask you. I'll ask you anyway. Which player will score the first touchdown?
The funniest thing is, before he said he made his choice, I was gonna say Brandon Cooks, but he brought he brought up,
wow.
No, but he brought up his 87, and you know what? I get a little jealous. You know what? I gotta go back. It's Fergy, man. That seam shot with no weather. It's gonna be. I'm gonna be right one of these times. I'm sorry, I didn't choose Rico Dowdle a couple times. My bad.
Right. Yeah, even though Detroit does have the best run defense in the NFL, I think Tony Pollard might be the first person will be the first player to find the end zone on Saturday. I think he wants to make up for that botched TD run that he missed last Sunday, man. So I see Pollard getting his nose in the end zone this week. All right, Breeze, I know you're a fantasy guy, man. Which player will score the most fantasy points this week?
This is an interesting one. I mean, of course, the cop-out answer based on the matchups, be CeeDee Lamb. But I honestly think it could be Brandon Cooks.
I like that, man. How about you, Brandon?
We're susceptible to wide receivers. So
right.
Like I was just saying a moment ago, if Cameron Sutton is out for this game, we're going to be thin in that secondary, man. So I could see a big day not only from Lamb, but I can also see a really nice game from Brandon Cooks too.
For sure. Brenden, how about you?
I'm gonna have to go with the cop-out answer and CeeDee Lamb, but only for a different reason though. It's not because also first off he's dominant. He is, but you can tell that McCarthy hears the media talking. He truly does. We needed Rico Dowdle to get the ball more. Rico started getting the ball more. Dude, Brandon Cooks isn't a decoy. He started throwing to Brandon Cooks. Now everyone's like, why in the world did you not throw him the ball anymore? I think he's gonna go off. That's if the offensive line can actually block a nosebleed for once.
Yeah. That Detroit defensive line is no joke, man.
Yeah, that scares me.
I too think it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. We talked about it after a hot start against Miami. McCarthy decided not to get Lamb more touches for almost 2 quarters last week. Heading into the playoffs, I think McCarthy wants his star receiver playing with confidence and staying locked in. So, yeah, McCarthy's going to feed the beast in CeeDee Lamb for sure. All right, Breeze, what's your score prediction?
So I'm going Detroit 30, Dallas 27. I think this game will be high scoring. It's in a dome. It's in a controlled environment, so we don't got to worry about weather in this game. You got 2 really good offenses that's going to be, running and airing it out. So I expect a lot of points to be scored, and for those who have fantasy players in this game, buck up.
All right, Brendan, how about you? What's your score prediction?
I've always been wrong. Like, I've always say close games, and they're either blowouts on either side, or I'm like, oh, Dallas is going to win by 20, and then it's
Right.
super close game. I think it's going to be 28-24 Dallas. It's good. Like, the Lions are no joke. I feel like this is going to be more like the Seattle game, if anything. The defenses don't do anything till like the fourth quarter.
I got you. Yeah, I have it a high-scoring affair as well, but maybe I'm a little bit more confident in Dallas, especially at home. But I have a Detroit 20 and Dallas 31, just because, Breeze, you mentioned it, man. If that secondary is pretty thin, and if Cameron Sutton is out as well, then Dallas could kind of find a way to take advantage of that. Every team's injured right now, but Dallas has been known to take advantage of team secondaries with the way Dak's been playing this season.
Yeah,
So
I'm
Breeze,
definitely going to be cheering for Dak. I was going to say I'll definitely be cheering for Dak since I have him in one of my championship matchups. I hope he light up the scoreboard.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man, for sure. Well, Breeze, man, again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come and hang out with us, man, and talk with us. Before we get you out of here, I know you're a fantasy football personality. I know you're a busy guy, but do you create any content? Do you have any articles or podcasts we can listen to? Maybe a YouTube channel or some things in the works that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so each week during the fantasy football season, I produce a weekly DFS thread on my Twitter. Usually Friday or Saturday, I'll post it out. You guys can follow me at MC Breeze 11. Be on the lookout for that. Just highlighting plays that I think can help people win money. For that particular week, and it's a blast.
Absolutely.
I like not always agreeing with what the masses are saying, who to recommend to play. Yeah. I don't mind throwing a risky play. Hearing if I have the conviction that I think this player is going to do really well, I don't mind, missing and of course hitting on that particular player. So it's been a ton of fun doing that.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I'll make sure to be on the lookout for that. Brenden, remind the people they can find you on Twitter, sir.
You can find me at Brenden_Smith26.
As always, guys, we appreciate you joining us. Any and all support is appreciated. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast YouTube page and share it with a friend. I am Paul Ryan, and we will see you next week.